Welcome to Paranormal Almanac with your host, Kurt Sandvik.
Hey, howdy, hi. That's right, I'm your host, Kurt Sandvik, and on this week's edition of Paranormal Almanac, let's talk only about the UAP congressional hearing. Whoa, that's getting some feedback out of nowhere. Hello, testing. Yeah, that's weird. Why am I getting feedback? Hello? Well, screw it. We'll keep on going on. Hopefully it sounds good enough for you guys. This is take one. I got about 25 minutes into the episode and realized, even though it said it was recording, it was not. It's what you call one of them there glitches. They can't keep this information away from you, so I stopped and I started again. First of all, we got shout-outs. Shout-outs going out to the patrons. That's right. Head on over to patreon.com/paranormalalmanac. Shout-outs going out to Travis, Avril, Loch Ness, not a monster, Stacy, Demolition Diva, Leviathan, The Wicked One, Scott Mills, Ilsaid, Brian, Heather G's, Jeffrey B, Chani the Pommy, Hey Howdy Hi, JT, Doogie Whore, Mike G, Tracy B, Jeff, Richard, Lori, Alec, Karen, Duran, Lori, Rebecca, Ann, Stephen Sher, Jane Ann, Jennifer, Heather G, Your Friendly Neighborhood Skinwalker, Zuzus, What's It, Nico Sharon the Mouse, Andrew, Mark and Tina, Tortuga, Mike from Jersey, JB, Andy, Tracy, good luck on the treasure hunt tomorrow. Virginia Mailman, Tony the Magician, Jason, Vicky, Crow, Lobita Works, Glacier Main, Isabel, Jen, Amber, Tracy, Kelly Joe, Menace the Beast, Kick-Ass Magic Robot Webcomic, Sandy, Paige, Cow, Scott, Andrea, Melody, Vanessa, Marisol, Becca, Jake, Charlotte and the Beasties, Elizabeth, Cherry, Jackson, Hey Howdy Hi, very special shout out in a minute. Art Muffin, Tim, Kenneth, Alexandra, George Benson, Zozo the Demon, Hayden, Cindy, Ashley, Robin, Will, Lauren, Russell, Isabel, Audra, Dorian, Cindy, Paula, Jerry, Jeff T, Joe, Lawrence, Melissa, the Lauren Strawn, Hey Howdy Hi, Veronica, Autumn, J Mark, Carolyn, Nanashi, Todd, Jamie, and Elijah Hendrickson, Dan, Laura Pitts, and the one, the only Gamer Fan. Gamer Fan, reach out to me. You got a free shirt coming your way, but I need your info. Alrighty, two special shout outs going out to Joe Teague and to my boy Stitch, and then a very, very, very special shout out going out to Sherry. I started writing an email, and I changed it a billion times. Then I started writing a message to you, Facebook message, and I changed it a billion times. Then a text, changed it a billion times. I cannot thank you enough. You are the most incredible, wonderful, generous person in the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once I get my head around how I can say what I want to say, I will be sending you a very special message and hopefully hanging out with you very, very soon. Alrighty, for merch, head on over to tpublic.com/stores/paranormalalmanac. Let's get right on in to paranormal news. Nope, that's right. We're not doing paranormal news this week. What? I know. Well, not right now. I'm going to do paranormal news at the end of this episode. The one and only time I'll do this probably, because 99.9% of the news is about what I want to talk about on this episode. And I want to do it kind of like a wrap-up. Again, one time only probably. So, what is this episode about, and why did I have to do a take two? Well, I had to do a take two because I'm not a smart man. What is this episode about? Well, it's about the November 13th congressional hearing on UAPs. This is not the first one they've done. If you don't know about the other one, I'm sure you can go back and listen to some of the other episodes because I've talked about it quite a bit, at least in paranormal news, quite a bit. All righty. In case you guys didn't know, on November 13th, there was another congressional hearing about UAPs. What's a UAP? A UAP is an unidentified aerial phenomena. I'll go through the acronyms in just a little bit. It's a UFO hearing. But before we jump in, you know what? Let me do it right now. Before we jump in, let's talk about the acronyms now because there are a ton regarding this hearing. So a bunch of people were called in front of Congress to answer questions about UAPs. I'll tell you who those people were in just a little bit. I'll tell you what they talked about in just a little bit. And I'll talk about some of the questions, the pertinent questions they were asked. But before we jump in to the November 13th congressional hearing about UAPs, let's talk about that acronym and acronyms in general. Because there's a ton of acronyms regarding or because of or being talked about in this hearing. And you're going to hear them misused a few times as well in this episode, probably by me, but more often by other people. But let's go through them. So we got a bunch of different acronyms. First, we have UFO. You all know what this one is. An unidentified flying object. I was going to say it with me, but fuck it. Unidentified flying object. That's right. The one, the granddaddy of them all that everybody, even my grandparents, knew what a UFO was. But before they were UFOs, they weren't acronyms. They were flying saucers, or discs, or Foo Fighters, or just hundreds of other names for UFOs. UFOs, other names. Let's see. ETV, an extraterrestrial vehicle. I don't like that one, but I get why they're saying that. Like I said, bunch of different names prior, including apparently ETV. Speaking of ETs, what about ETs? Well, we all know what an ET is thanks to that movie. You know, Ouch, Heartlight, Neil Diamond, that kind of stuff. That's right, extraterrestrials. Then we have USO. A USO is an unidentified submersible or submerged object. Basically a UFO that can go either is underwater and comes out, or stays underwater, or is flying and then goes underwater. They'll label those as USOs. Then we got the new one, UAP. Now, when did UAP come into fashion? Let's find out. It doesn't say. Wow, I really thought it would have said. Really? It doesn't say when UAPs happened? It just says UAP, a term that has become more common in the 21st century due to negative associations with UFOs. That's not the reason. I'll get more into that in a minute. The U.S. Department of Defense established a UAP task force in 2020, so right around that time. Yeah, it is a relatively new term. We'll get into that in just a minute, but let's keep going. So we got UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. Then we have NHI. N as in Nancy, H as in Harry, I as in Igor. An NHI is a non-human intelligence. An ET, a new name for ETs, for extraterrestrials. Then we have EBE, an extraterrestrial biological entity. That is a dead alien. Then we have ARV, which is alien remote vehicles, another very new term that's, catching on. They're either called ARVs or they're called RVs. So why did they change the acronyms? Well, they did it for a very specific reason, and that reason is the Freedom of Information Act. Because if you request a Freedom of Information Act on a specific file, and you ask for that file, like, I want this file dated 1947, January, I'm just going to make up a date, November 5th, 1947, about a UFO. They can pull it up and go, oh, no. On my file, we didn't call it a UFO. We called it a disc, or we called it a flying saucer. Come on up. Hi, Rum. Come here. Hi, sweetheart. Just talking about UAPs. So they can say, nope, sorry, our file does not have the term UFO on it, and you don't get the file. They say the file does not exist. Basically, they keep changing the name so they can keep changing the game so we can't win. If you don't get it exactly right, if they don't call it an EBE or an ET, but they call it an NHI, and you ask for a file with ET or EBE on it, they're going to go, oh, no, we don't have that file. Technically, they don't have that file. Their file says NHI. So they keep changing the acronyms. It's something that they've been doing for quite a while, but now they're doing it at an insane pace. So much so, you'll hear in a little bit that reporters can't keep up with it. Congress people can't keep up with it. People are screwing up the acronyms left, right, and center because the acronyms keep changing that quickly. So again, you keep changing the name, you keep changing the game. You can't do the Freedom of Information Act as easily as we used to be able to do. And you might be saying, like, all right, what do you need to know to get something from a Freedom of Information Act? And that is a great question. So the Freedom of Information Act was enacted in 1966. It provides any person with the statutory right enforceable in court to obtain access to government information and executive branch agency records. Who can request it? Anybody. Anybody can submit an FOIA, more acronyms, Freedom of Information Act, request to access federal agency records. What's exempt? Information considered confidential, like internal agency communications, personal privacy details, classified national security information, and certain law enforcement records can be withheld under specific exemptions. You want a great example of this? The JFK files. The JFK files have been under lock and key forever. Last time they tried to say, all right, we're going to release some more, but we're not going to release everything because there are still people that are alive that can be affected by the release of these documents. Very interesting, very important. But this episode's not about JFK as much as I would like it to be, so we'll move on. Here's what's important. To make a Freedom of Information Act request, you must submit a written request to the relevant federal agency, and you have to clearly describe the records you seek. That's where those acronyms come in handy, or are important, I should say. Now, they have 20 business days to respond, yes or no. If they deny it, you can appeal, but it's not going to do any good. But they're not free, because you might be asking, why don't we do it every day? Why don't I, Kurt, send in a Freedom of Information Act about Roswell and just start dating it from the date Roswell happened to the next day, 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 and just do it, up until today? Well, I could, but it would cost me, I think it's like $125 or $150 per request. And the chances of me getting something that won't be redacted, slim and none. That's right. Even if you get something back, it can be so heavily redacted that it's just a black piece of paper, just blacked out. Doesn't give you anything. Now, here's the exemptions. National security information, i.e. JFK stuff. Internal agencies, deliberations, and communications. Very specific wording. They do that to protect people, whether they're alive or dead, but it's also a way for them to be like, oh, they only talked about the UFO, the Roswell UFO in written communications? Sorry, that's an internal agency communications. Exempt. Personal privacy information. Again, and just in case somebody's still alive, but the chances of that happening are getting fewer and fewer and slimmer, even for JFK stuff, but yet they'll turn it down. Law enforcement records where disclosure could impede investigations. That's right. Get this. The Black Dahlia murder. When did the Black Dahlia murder actually happen? Hold on. Let me check this. Black Dahlia murder. The Black Dahlia murder happened in 1947, but it's still technically an unsolved open case with the LAPD. So they could say, sorry, you can't get any more information using the Freedom of Information Act. God, that's hard to say. You can't get any more information under the Freedom of Information Act about the Black Dahlia murder because law enforcement records where disclosure could impede investigations. That's still technically an open investigation. Nothing's going to come your way. Trade secrets and commercial information. That one's pretty obvious. They don't want to give out the, recipe to KFC if it was part of the Black Dahlia murder. Financial, it's not. Don't start that conspiracy theory. Financial institution supervisory information. I don't know. Don't care. Certain geological information. Don't know. Kind of don't care. Let's find out exactly how much it costs. The requester shall be considered to have agreed to pay all applicable fees up to $25. Up to $25? No, there's way more than that. $20 per hour. There we go. For clerical staff. $44 per hour for professional staff. $75 per hour for executive staff. Duplication, reproduction fees are usually 10 cents per page. Yeah, they're going to charge you. They're going to charge you out the ass. And again, there is a good chance you're not going to get any information from it. So it does put a limit on the Freedom of Information Act. But again, things get leaked to people, especially the Black Vault guy. Boy, what is his name? Bums me out because he does good work. John Greenwald? It might be John Greenwald. I don't know. I'll have to find his name. It's going to be said later on in this episode. I feel terrible. Here we go. It is. It's John Greenwald Jr. Okay. boy, I got to stop doubting myself. So again, like John Greenwald Jr. was is really good about finding a little bit of pertinent information and go, okay, I'm not going to tell the government that I want something on UFOs, but I'm going to tell them that I want this specific document from this specific date, knowing that it pertains to UFOs, hoping that whoever does go through it doesn't notice the little bit, the one line, the one word, whatever, about UFOs, and they let it go. And that's how stuff has been trickling out to us. This disclosure has been trickling out to us. So, yeah, it's a fun game that the government is playing with these awesome people like John Greenwald Jr. to say, kind of like I said, like go fish. Do you have a document from this date about this specific general? Go fish, that kind of thing. But when they get it right, when he gets it right, we get just a little bit more information that can help us out. Hopefully, that document will lead to more documents, and then this information really starts coming out. The theory is, not really a theory, the speculation is, I guess the better way of wording it, the speculation is that a lot of the people that are at this congressional hearing, that were talking at this hearing, that were called in to talk at this hearing, have heard of a ton of these documents just waiting to make them declassified so they can release them, so they don't go to jail, so they don't Snowden these guys. These people have to be very careful, and it's, I give them all the props and all the credit in the world. They have to be very, very careful the wording that they use so as to not give who the person is that they're getting their information from, in case it's like some kind of, like these whistleblowers. They hear from other whistleblowers that could get them in serious trouble or arrested. So they have to be very specific on the wording that they use, the wording that they choose. And it's a lot of faith goes into this. So for these people to come forward, let me just start right with that. The people that come forward, these whistleblowers that come forward to these congressional hearings, they are not getting anything out of it. They're not becoming celebrities. They are not becoming instant millionaires, billionaires, whatever, because they're going to be in every talk show. No, they're not. They're risking their reputations. They're risking their pensions. They're risking jail time to get this information out, because that's how important it is. I was going to say is for them, but no, that's how important this information is. All righty, so let's get into the November 13th congressional hearing. Who is at this hearing? Well, first of all, we had Tim Gallaudet, I believe is how you say his last name, Gallaudet. He's a retired Rear Admiral from the U.S. Navy, CEO of Ocean STL Consulting, LLC. Let's talk about what he had to say in a very, very break it down, very quick nutshell. He said, confirmation that UAPs are interacting with humanity came for me in January 2015. Now, this was in written testimony. He describes being a part of a pre-deployment naval exercise off the U.S. East Coast that culminated in the Go Fast video. And if you don't know what the Go Fast video is, the Go Fast video and the Gimbal video and the Tic Tac videos all came around roughly the same time, like 2015, I believe it was. It was a UFO encounter from the perspective or caught on camera by a Navy fighter jet off of as they were watching the nuclear aircraft carrier, the USS Theodore Roosevelt. Now, it was off the eastern seaboard, like he just said. I believe it was near Florida, if I'm not mistaken. But so he's talking about that video. He said, if I would have kept reading his little synopsis, I could have told you, in which a Navy FA-18 jet sensors recorded an unidentified object exhibiting flight and structural characteristics unlike anything in our arsenal. So he was a bunch of the commanders who received an email that contained that video, the Go Fast video. It was sent by the operations officer of Fleet Forces Command. And he said the very next day, the email disappeared from my account and those of the other recipients without explanation. That's pretty scary. It's not shocking by any stretch, but that's pretty scary how quickly they're going to be like, oh, did he get a copy of that? No, he did not. And boop, it's gone. Gone from his account. Now, he called out the UAPs as a safety risk for Navy pilots. I think that's very smart. I think it's actually really, really smart to go. The reason I want to talk about UAPs is not to get to the bottom of, are aliens real? Do we have recovered UFOs or UAPs or ARVs or any other acronyms? It's not that. He's saying this is a safety risk. This is a safety risk for Navy pilots. This is safety risk for our airspace. Now, he said he was acting as the chief meteorologist for the Navy, again, at the time of the 2015 Go Fast encounter. He accused elements of the government of engaging in disinformation campaigns designed to discredit UAP whistleblowers. You're going to hear that a lot, where the quickest, easiest way for the government to brush all of this under the rug or make them look dumb to the general population. That's all they care about, at the general population, not about people like me that talk about UFOs every week, that research UFOs nearly daily. They're talking about the general population, that 24-hour media cycle. They want to get it in everybody's ears. Oh, this guy was crazy. Or, oh, this guy didn't have the credentials he said he has. Or, talking about UFOs must be nuts. They want to discredit them so quickly so that the news cycle keeps moving on and people just go, whatever, and it's in one ear and out the other. It is the very quickest way, and it is also the basic playbook that not only the U.S. government, but every government has used forever since UFOs have been crashing. Roswell, they did this. Every major UFO crash, they did this. They'll quickly discredit people, or they'll threaten them by saying, hey, if you really want to talk about it, you can, but chances are you're going to lose your job, your wife, your church is going to, disown you. You're going to be a laughing stock of your community. It's a very quick, very effective, sadly still to this day, very effective way to get whistleblowers to not come forward. Now, I will say, the one thing that I liked about Galladay's testimony is, again, he's very deliberate, and in my opinion only, very deliberate to not use the words alien or extraterrestrial or make it kind of woo-woo paranormal. But he did say that he has a new realization that we are not the only advanced intelligence in the universe. That is huge. Keep it factual. Keep it to records and things that he was in part of and what he saw, without saying, I believe in UFOs. It's a very smart way of doing things because, again, that discredit gimmick, tool, whatever that you want to call it, that they use is very effective. Another person that was there on November 13th testifying in front of Congress was Lou Elizondo. Now, Lou Elizondo, they tried to discredit him after the first one. They tried to make him sound like he was just another tinfoil hat nut job. He has stuck to his guns. The information that he brought out prior and the information he talked this time. His information, what I'm trying to say is his information, what he said prior, things keep coming true based on what he said. He keeps getting validated or corroborated, or evidence keeps corroborating what he has already testified. He is not afraid to talk the UFO talk, and go out there and be on UFO podcasts and talk to people. He's a very cool guy, and he's very, in my opinion, like, he is very ballsy. He's very out there. His book, fantastic book. If you haven't bought his book, I highly recommend. His book is called Imminent: Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. It is a fantastic book. He actually mentions it at this hearing a little bit by saying, like, the stuff that I put out in my book, it was reviewed by all of these people with the clearance levels that can view it, and I let them take out what they wanted to take out or what was not considered for public consumption. He's being very smart about it. He doesn't want to end up in jail. He wants to keep being a whistleblower. And the way he's going about it is very good. He doesn't want to destroy his pension, even though I think it kind of already was kind of screwed up. But he doesn't want to destroy his life, but he still wants to be a whistleblower. That's very brave. I think he's a great guy. I think he has way more involvement than many people think. He has the clearance. Every time someone questioned his clearance level after the first hearing, Nope, sorry. It turns out he did have the clearance. He says he has more evidence to share, but legally can't. You're going to hear some clips with him later, but he said, let me be clear. UAPs are real. Advanced technology not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. That statement alone, huge. And that statement alone should have been on the cover of every newspaper out there. He has the clearance. He's seen these documents. In his testimony, you'll hear him say, like, we're going to have to talk about that behind closed doors, or SCIFs. A SCIF is, I think I talk about that in a little bit, but I want to make sure I get into that right now. SCIF stands for, I don't want to make sure I get it right, Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. A sensitive compartmented information facility in United States military, national security, national defense, and intelligence parlance is an enclosed area within a building that is used to process sensitive compartmented information of classified information. Basically, you go into a SCIF, you're not going to bring in your phone, you're not going to be recording everything. If you have the clearance, he can tell you these things, but we personally, the general public, the press, anybody doesn't have that clearance cannot hear the information that he has to share. And he has a ton of it that he can't legally share. And again, a lot of people are giving him slack or like crap for that, saying like, well, just say it, man. No, he can't just say it, man. It would never get to us, for one thing. And for a second thing, it would not benefit anybody. It definitely wouldn't benefit him or his family. He'd get arrested. We'd never hear about it. It wouldn't go anywhere. If you think that national UAP, the congressional hearing, the UAP congressional hearing that happened on the 13th, if you think that was live, wrong. It was buffered. Again, it was a couple of minutes, but it's enough time for them to cut the feed for anybody that's not in that room. I would love to be in that room. I was shocked at some of the people that were in that room or there that day. Like Chris Ramsey, I just interviewed him recently. Fantastic, from Area 52. He was there in that room, or at least there that day. I don't know if he actually got in the room. I couldn't find him on video, but I know he was there that day. I saw him with Jeremy Corbell. Like, the bigwigs of the UAP community, they were all there. And Chris Ramsey was there as well. I saw photos of him with them. Now, again, I don't know if he was in that room, but I'm pretty sure he was in that room. And that's a room, like, look, you want to talk about like Hamilton in the room where it happened? I want to be in the room where it happened. Now, the good thing about me doing an episode like this, in my opinion, is you don't have to sit through the entire UAP hearing. The government is fantastic at making this stuff as boring as possible. We're talking about UFOs. We're talking about aliens. We're talking about reverse engineering UFOs. They make it so dry and so boring that the general public tune out and be like, yeah, whatever. And then the next day, a lot of the news sources will say, well, they couldn't really say anything. Every time that they were asked a specific question, these people these witnesses, these whistleblowers would say, sorry, I can't talk about it. No, that's not what they said. What they said was they legally can't talk about it. They had the clearance, they have the evidence, but you better have the clearance to hear that information. All right, who else was there? Michael Schellenberger. Michael Schellenberger, he's a professor, an author, he's a journalist. He's very big in his journalism about free speech, the environment, homelessness. He's a co-founder of the Breakthrough Institute and the California Peace Coalition. How do I say this? I want to say this as diplomatically as possible. I agree with some of the stuff that Schellenberger talks about. I do believe that the media does not have the general public's best interest at heart. Any media. I agree with that statement. I don't agree. You know what? I'm going to let you decide for yourself. I'm not telling you how you should feel about anyone involved in this episode. You're going to hear from them. You're going to hear a lot from them in a little while. I do want to add this caveat, though. this is not being political. This is my opinion only. My opinion of Michael Schellenberger is that I have a feeling he's starting to lean far right. Now, I'm not talking about he is becoming a Republican. Great, cool, don't care. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not being political. I'm talking about leaning far right. I'm talking about the extremes, the far left and the far right, both extremes. I don't think either of them are good for the world. But the far right leaning, the more conservative Christian, he says a lot of stuff that seems to purvey that the far right can do no wrong. He thinks that Musk and X can do no wrong. You can take what you want from that. If you want to say like, oh, now I really want to hear from him, great. If you say, I'm going to put a grain of salt on anything this guy says, great. That is as far into it as I want to go. But I wanted to put that caveat out there because I think it's important to know the person that's talking. Like I said, Lou Elizondo has proven himself to have the clearance levels, to have the top secret information, and to supposedly have tons of documents that he legally can't talk about. Gallaudet, he was there. He was there at the time of the 2015 GoFast encounter. He was there. So I want to make sure that I put Michael Schellenberger in that same kind of light. That if you just, that first part of it, when I said he writes on a wide range of topics, including free speech and the environment, you might think, cool, this guy's awesome. Let's go on. I'll believe anything this guy has to say. I don't want anyone to think that about anybody on this panel. Do your own research is what I'm saying. Let's continue on. Michael Gold. Who is he? Well, he's NASA's former Associate Administrator of Space Policy and Partnerships. He's also a member of the organization's independent UAP study team. Let me repeat that last part. He is a member of NASA's independent UAP study team. I think that that's great that NASA is doing it independently. Do I 100% trust it? No, I do not. I think that it can be bogged down in politics just as much as any other task force out there, Aero, ATIP, any of them. But the more agencies that are, that have the ability to do it, NASA definitely has the ability, they're talking about space, the more agencies that have the ability to do it, the better that something might be leaked, that something might get out, or that they might actually release something. I'm putting that at the very end, but still. He's also worked in the private sector as an executive at the Bigelow Aerospace. Does that name sound familiar? Bigelow Aerospace, Robert Bigelow, Skinwalker Ranch. So he does dip his toe into the possible paranormal. He works as a chief growth officer at Redwire, an American aerospace manufacturer, serves as treasurer for the Commercial Spaceflight Federation. He was awarded NASA's Outstanding Leadership Medal in 2021, blah, blah, blah. Again, do your own research about this guy, but I will say from what he had to say, that is a safe background to say about this. What he had to say basically is he just stressed the need for the government agencies and academics to, quote, overcome the pernicious stigma that continues to impede scientific dialogue and open discussions about unexplained phenomena. He says, as the saying goes, the truth is out there. We just need to be bold enough and brave enough to face it. So nothing came forward from him from that independent NASA UAP study team. It's not like he said, hey, while I'm here, since I work at the NASA UAP study team, here's an alien body. Nothing big like that. Nothing big, bold. So for him, again, look into them all. I want you to do that kind of independent research, but I want to make sure that you have that in your mindset. So here is, first of all, a non-update from Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh. Let me do this one for you first. I'm going to be playing a lot of stuff.
The accusations, it's not in the report, but that the department has within storage the remains of aliens or signs of life from elsewhere. Can you settle that once and for all? Do you or don't you have such remains?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any remains that the department has of any signs of extraterrestrial beings or activity or technology. And I'm sorry, what was your second question or your first question?
Well, it's really about that, and then also what the top line finding in this report.
So the report, again, was briefed to members of Congress, and from what I read out at the top, I really don't have more to provide, but the relevant staff and committee members were notified about the report. You know, part of this annual report submitted to Congress is accountability and to ensure that we continue to keep members updated through our Aero office. Go ahead.
Have you found any evidence of foreign involvement in any of these unidentified aerial phenomena?
Yeah, to date, the department has not discovered any verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology, nor verifiable information to substantiate claims that, you know, any programs regarding possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or currently exist.
Okay, and in terms of the strikes on the Houthis,
all right, that's the pertinent information. So again, not shocking that they did not disclose everything. They didn't give the deputy Pentagon press secretary full clearance to go through the entire documents that every one of these whistleblowers brought in front of Congress. Yeah, it's a non-update. This is a perfect example of, well, on record, we do not have any instances. Yeah, of course you don't. It's not on record. It's classified. That's the whole point of this thing. That's why we need you to release the information that you swear you're going to release with ARROW. ARROW, there's another acronym. She brought it up in this one. ARROW is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. That is an office within the United States Office of the Secretary of Defense that investigates unidentified flying objects and other phenomena in the air, sea, underwater, space, on land, sometimes referred to as UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, or unidentified anomalous phenomena. So they added more. There's, like I said, they're always adding acronyms so that if you ask again for a file for unidentified aerial phenomena on this specific date, they can go, well, we didn't call it that. We called it the unidentified anomalous phenomena on that file. Boop. No, thank you. So yeah, not surprising that that is the official result of this congressional hearing is, no, the government does not have this. Of course it is. They're not going to just say it. So next we have testimony regarding how the government is, quote, 100% withholding information. All right, let's see if that is the truth. First up is Mr. Garcia, who was at the congressional hearing.
Just if we can go down real briefly, do you believe, just for the record, that the federal government, any part of the federal government, is knowingly concealing evidence about UAPs from the public?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they're just going to go down the panel. They're going to start with Dr. Galladay, and then they're going to go to Lou Elizondo, I believe, and then Schellenberg, the people that I just talked about. So he's asking, I'm going to play it back. I want you to hear it straight from him and then their answer.
Knowingly concealing evidence about UAPs from the public?
Yes, sir.
100%.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I also want to just go down the line. I know many of you have already said this, but just for the record again, just briefly, what do you believe UAPs could be or are?
Strong evidence that they are non-human, higher intelligence.
I echo my colleague's comment, sir.
Genuinely do not know.
Don't know, but we must find out.
I think it's a very bold statement. So down the line, it was Dr. Galladay, Lou Elizondo, Schellenberger, and then Mr. Gold, the NASA guy. So all four of them, straight across the board. Yes, the government is withholding information about UAPs, and we don't know what they are. The thing that I liked about this one is, again, sitting right behind the Mr. Gold, what the hell is his first name? Timothy? Michael, sitting right behind Michael Gold on the video at the hearing, Jeremy Corbell. He is right there. So freaking close to it. And rightfully so. Jeremy Corbell, I'd love to have him on this show. I think that he is a very brave guy to be as forthright in this community. Him and Lou Elizondo, they're, in my opinion, are really brave about being as strong-headed whistleblowers and having a ton of information that they can't release, knowing they can't release, but They got it, and the government's got to be sweating just a little bit about what they have. Alrighty, let's get to the next. We're going to get to the ABC News story. I'll let it play, and then I'll tell you about it. This is the acronym nightmare right here.
A new report now from the Pentagon about unidentified flying objects. There were hundreds of new reported sightings over the last year, and some the government still can't explain. Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz joins us with the details. It's quite the talker. Martha, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. It does. It all sounds straight out of a science fiction movie, but these unidentified airborne objects are taken very seriously by the Pentagon and the intelligence community. And this morning, their new report revealing that these sightings are on the rise. Navy pilots have seen them.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
More than 1,600 unidentified flying objects have been reviewed by the government's Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, over the years. 98% of them eventually found to be debris, drones, or even large birds. But new numbers this morning from May of 2023 to June of 2024 show 757 new sightings, with 21 of them that cannot be explained. And all 21 mysterious objects were seen near national security sites, witnessed by multiple people, or captured on sensors or videos. While the Pentagon does not know what they were, they are quick to steer the public away from little green men.
To date, the department has discovered no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology.
But at a hearing this week, the former head of the Pentagon program investigating these objects says nothing should be ruled out.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes. Let me be clear. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations.
While Pentagon officials do stress that they have no evidence of any of this being alien technology, they have not.
Yeah. Whatever. You couldn't even say UFO. You said UAO. There's a perfect example of acronyms and people that aren't into or interested in the topic. And you don't have to be a UFO nut to be interested in the topic. It's the biggest story that could ever possibly happen. It is slowly being disclosed, and it's being piecemealed out to us so slowly that people just don't care. When I talk about this with somebody who has absolutely no interest at all in UFOs, they go, yeah, whatever. They just don't care. Or they say, I don't know, I heard that nothing was found. Technically, the government did say that, but again, they're brushing under a ton of whistleblower testimony under the rug to get to that point. And that happens over and over and over. Now, one of the biggest things that's talked about recently and even brought up at this congressional hearing is a thing called Immaculate Constellation. What is it? Well, it seemed like it's run by a variety of government programs, a DoD program with USAP program, Unacknowledged Special Access Program. That's what USAP means. Unacknowledged Special Access Program, controlled by the White House, but administered by the DoD, that has files that are pertained to UAPs. And I'm not talking about blurry videos and photos. I'm talking about a treasure trove of clear, crystal clear photos, videos, documents, and evidence. This Immaculate Constellation seems to be real. It's been theorized for a while. I've had it as a possible topic for an episode for a very long time, but it is really hard to figure out fact from fiction about Immaculate Constellation. Anything to do with the paranormal or UFOs. You know, people regurgitate the same stuff and then make up a little bit, and then that gets regurgitated a bunch of times, then make up a little bit more, then that gets regurgitated a bunch of times until it's really hard to figure out fact from fiction. That is definitely the case about a secret government program that is so differently compartmentalized or shared. It's a DoD program with Unacknowledged Special Access Program controlled by the White House, but administered by the DoD, that's Department of Defense, that has files pertaining to UFOs. So the big first question is, why is this program set up the way that it is? It seems odd. Is it a White House program or is it a Department of Defense program? Why is it both? That seems to be the first big hurdle, is to figure out who's running it, why are they running it, who's paying for it, who does it report to, where does that information go? And I don't know. Let me tell you this. This is from News Nation about Immaculate Constellation. It says the Immaculate Constellation reports describe UFO encounters. It's an internal government report, and it documents some UAP sightings from the program. A new report entered into evidence during the latest congressional hearing, the one that just happened, details sightings documented in an alleged secret program. Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger, again, awesome, great job for getting this out there. He reported about this whistleblower allegation regarding the existence of this program called Immaculate Constellation. He said that the Immaculate Constellation is a program that includes reports that whistleblowers say are evidence, clear, concrete, 100% proof evidence of UAP technology. You know what? I'm just going to jump into it. I'm just going to read from the macehouse.gov site about this. And of course, here we go. This document is the result of a multi-year internal investigation into the subjects of unidentified anomalous phenomena, technologies of unknown origin. Ooh, that's another acronym. TUO, Technology of Unknown Origins, and Non-Human Intelligence, NHIs. This investigation was undertaken in response to urgent and credible threats to the public good and safety of the United States of America, and provided to Congress through the UAP whistleblower mechanisms established by the FY23 National Defense Authorization Act and the FY23 National Intelligence Authorization Act. The data consulted during this investigation and summarized in this report originate from non-public data, that's important, non-public data, held within the executive branch of the U.S. government. The author obtained access to this information while pursuing their lawful duties as an employee of the Department of Defense, hence why Immaculate Constellation is partially under the DoD. This public version of the author's report was reviewed and approved for public release by the Department of State and the Bureau of Global Public Affairs. So it talks about Immaculate Constellation, an unacknowledged special access program, USAP, established following the public disclosure of ATIP and AAWSAP programs. I already forget what that one is, AAWSAP. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification System, that's ATIP. The Advanced Aerospace Weapon Systems Applications Program. There we go. There's another acronym for you. Having fun with these acronyms yet? Following the public disclosure of ATIP and AAWSAP programs by Lou Elizondo in 2017, upon disclosure to Congress, it was determined that this USAP and its collateral information have not been lawfully reported to Congress. So the reason that Congress says they want to do these is they want to know what's real, who's got this information, who's paying for these programs, how much money is being funded into these programs, and why. So it says that Immaculate Constellation's primary mission is collecting imagery intelligence on unidentified aerial phenomena and RV. This time they're saying RV stands for reproduction vehicles, not remote vehicles like they were going to say later on in this episode. So ARV is reproduction vehicles. That's interesting because that means reverse engineered UFOs, which is the big one. That's what Bob Lazar talked about forever ago, that we have been reverse engineering UFOs. And Lou Elizondo has said flat out, yes, we have reverse engineered UFOs, as have other countries' governments. Let's see. ARVs, reproduction vehicles, utilize tasked and untasked U.S. military intelligence resources as part of a network of SAPs linked to non-human intelligence and UAP technologies. Immaculate Constellation acts as a nexus for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence on the activities, capabilities, and locations of anomalous aerospace threats that originate from foreign or unidentified sources. That is huge. Now it goes on. It goes on for 11 pages. There's a lot more acronyms. I don't want to read it all to you, though, because, again, it can be very overwhelming and very boring. I don't want to get into that. But it does talk about orbs, metallic orbs. That is a big one that was brought up in this congressional hearing, that these metallic orbs, they think, are reproduction vehicles. They are reverse engineered remote UFOs. That is huge. They say there exists daytime FMV and daytime FLIR footage of a formation of 12 metallic orbs skimming the ocean surface at high speeds before dispersing in multiple directions. That's huge. Then there is FLIR footage of a small, medium, oval UAP flying at high speeds and low to the surface. This footage begins as routine surveillance of a sensitive coastal facility when the oval UAP rapidly comes into frame as it flies above the coastal facilities. The oval UAP then makes a rapid turn towards the ocean where it's tracked by the collection platform. The oval UAP is tracked flying low over the open ocean at high speeds before the track is lost. Then they're talking about another reproduction vehicle. They said there exists infrared footage of and imagery of a grouping of vessels engaged in collection at night in a specific area of the Pacific Ocean. And this footage, which was in close proximity to the vessels, a large equilateral triangle UAP suddenly appears directly over the ships. 3 bright points are seen at each bottom corner of the UAP, which is observed to slowly rotate on its horizontal axis. Boom. They're talking about footage, clear, crystal clear footage, high-def footage, FLIR footage. FLIR is that, predator kind of vision kind of thing you'll see on ghost hunting shows of UFOs, UAPs that our government has or has taken. There's a lot about the triangle UFOs, and there's a lot about the orb UFOs. It just keeps going. A large saucer-shaped UAP emerging from within a dense cloud formation. The saucer registered black hot against white cold with atmospheric disturbances caused by the saucer-shaped UAP. The saucer was between 200 and 400 meters in circumference and displayed symmetrical concavities on the upper surface. It emerges at a shallow angle traveling upwards towards the outer atmosphere. That's huge. That's huge right there. Literally a huge UFO, a huge flying saucer going up into the upper atmosphere. Clear footage. Then there's a boomerang UAP, a jellyfish UAP. Now this one was leaked a while ago, I think by Jeremy Corbell, if I remember correctly. And they talk about this jellyfish UAP. FLIR footage of an irregularly shaped UAP flying across the southern border. The UAP appeared in FLIR to be modeled irregularly with hot, cold emissions and approximated a jellyfish or floating brain, or as someone, I forget who it was, maybe Buzz, somebody said, or Joshua, they were like, no, it's the Imperial probe droid from Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, it really looks just like that. The theory is, and they'll talk about that in a little bit, the theory is that these ARVs, these alien remote vehicles or recovered vehicles or whatever, what was the wording that they used for ARV? Now I already forgot it because there's so many of them. But anyhow, that these are reproduction vehicles, that they're remote vehicles that are made for specific tasks. That's why they all look so different. If it's just an orb, is it just monitoring something? If it's got these Imperial probe droid kind of tentacles or tendrils or whatever, it's because it's doing scientific analysis. It really goes into, there are a variety of these UFOs that are out there and why they look so different. And it just keeps going. Metallic orb intercepts F-22 on an air surveillance and control mission. A close encounter by a CVN flight deck personnel. I don't know what that means. Doesn't matter. It just keeps going, though. Honestly, this 11-page report, this Immaculate Constellation report, is huge. I would say if true, but it's true. This information is huge, and if it gets released, that's disclosure. That is disclosure beyond a shadow of a doubt. That is disclosure, which is probably why, it won't be released. But anyhow, the Immaculate Constellation groundbreaking report is huge, and it's being kept from the public, and technically, it's being kept by a lot of the people of Congress at this hearing because they didn't have clearance to view it or to go in a skiff and talk about it. That is huge. So there's a guy named Jesse Mitchells, I believe his name is. He sat down with Michael Schellenberger right after the congressional hearing. How he gets this access is beyond me. But holy shit, good on you, dude, because I'm going to be jumping around in his interview quite a bit. I'm not going to play his entire interview with Schellenberger, Michael Schellenberger, but I will say that I think it's very important to kind of jump around and talk about it. Let me go to the first timestamp that I wanted to talk. I sat through the entire video, so you don't have to unless you really want to. It's out there. It's on YouTube. You can feel free to watch the whole thing. It's called Immaculate Constellation UAP Program Revealed, featuring Michael Schellenberger. But here we go.
Cowardice is courageous, but so too is courage. And so you start to see the whistleblowers becoming more comfortable. We've had whistleblowers who are anonymous that were now on a different issue when you attach their names to it. I think you're seeing more people come forward. As I always stress, I could never encourage whistleblowers to go get information because I can't encourage anybody to, break the law. Mm-hmm. However, if people have information, I will promise to protect them. And that's ultimately why, someone came to me with the Immaculate Constellation stories. They just felt like they had seen me getting grilled in front of Congress before about revealing my sources, and I think they trusted that I wouldn't.
So, yeah, I think that is very cool. Again, I'm impressed with Michael Schellenberger's refusal to give up his sources. I think that is very cool. Here's him being interviewed by the congressional hearing by Congressman Higgins.
Do you know those sources?
I do.
Are they within the Department of Defense?
I can't say.
You can't say or you won't say?
I won't say.
Okay, why not?
Because I protect my sources, and I think the reason...
But you're not naming them. It's a big department. But many of us on my side of the aisle would say it's far too big. So you're talking about the Department of Defense, sources from within the Department of Defense?
I'm not willing to reduce the potential universe of where my sources might be. I will say that after I published, I was told that this program, that the USAP was actually managed by the Department of Defense but held at the White House.
Roger
but
that.
That's a single source, and I don't have multiple sources to verify that.
Thank you, sir. I did my best to trick an answer out of you, but...
Wow, that is his best to trick an answer out of him? Come on, man. Like that, I'm not impressed with Higgins right at all. I am impressed with Schellenberger. As much as I did that caveat at the beginning, I do respect him for making sure that the people that gave him the information stay protected. And I think that is really respectful, really respectable. I think that is really important to keep these whistleblowers safe and to keep the information coming out and getting new information. So I think that's fantastic. I give him all the credit in the world for that. Let me skip ahead to this part here.
Sources, but it's actually just from one. Mm-hmm. So there's ways to prevent that, but it seems like pretty new information, and certainly the revelation that there exists a very large strategic intelligence project to evaluate this information in a way that you would expect someone to evaluate it, with a lot of still images, video images, human reports, combining them. You can see there's a very interesting section where the source goes through the different kinds of UAPs and the different psychological effects, biological effects. I think that's a really fascinating part of the report.
Yeah, I think that is really impressive and very cool. The Immaculate Constellation report, like I said, it's going to be talked about more and more as it's dissected and more information comes out about it. And he does talk about it at a lot, but I don't want to spend the entire episode talking about just that. So let me skip to this.
An orb coming out of the ocean about 20 miles off the coast of Kuwait, being joined by another orb, and it, high definition, full color, and I also point out that it was shot in a helicopter on, I'm assuming high quality cameras, but this is not some, one of the concerns around maybe why they don't release this information is they don't want to reveal how the military collects this information. Well, I think everybody knows that we have helicopters and high definition cameras, so that can't be one of the reasons. And I think even in some of the other technologies, you can also, you can redact it, you can hide stuff, you can blur stuff. I think I don't believe that this is being kept secret from us simply to protect methods. I think it's being kept secret from us for deeper reasons, and some of them may just be ego, legacy, psychology, politics. There may be some criminality. There may be some ethics. I don't buy at all the excuse that they're hiding all this stuff just because they don't want to reveal how we capture this information.
And I agree with that completely. I think that is a really important thing to keep bringing up, that they keep saying, well, we can't release this crystal clear video because it was taken near a military base. Well, these are known military bases. We're not going to, if this information was released, oh my God, it was taken by, like he said, this is a perfect example of, was taken by a helicopter over the ocean. Sure, there's a military base right there, but it's over the ocean. We know that there's an ocean right there. Everybody knows it. Even flat earthers know that there's an ocean there. We know that helicopters exist. We know that high definition cameras exist. There is no reason to keep that classified other than if the government keeps releasing these videos more and more and more, they can't say, like that press secretary did, oh, we don't know anything about UFOs. Bullshit. You 100% know about UFOs, and you 100% have this footage that you are not releasing to the general public, even though you said, oh, Arrow and ATIP and all them, we're going to release all this information. Don't you worry. It's going to be released to everybody, and is it going to be amazing? It's going to blow your guys' minds. No, they're still hiding information. It's not a shock to me. It's never been a shock to anybody that's been following this. Of course they did. Of course they're not releasing this information. Now, this next one I had to add to this because he talks a little bit about JFK files and how it connects to UFO files. And as a JFK nut, I was like, well, I'm definitely adding this to the episode.
That, for people that say there's absolutely nothing there and it was just one guy that killed JFK, great. Well, then release the files. There's UAPs are nothing. It's great. So then why not the transparency?
Yes.
I mean, that's the ultimate problem for the skeptics. If you're a skeptic, you should be the greatest advocate of transparency and disclosure because it would make all of your enemies look like fools.
Yep.
And yet it's kind of suspicious that we don't see that. It's almost like what we're hearing is there's nothing there, and therefore the government shouldn't release the files.
Yep.
Not exactly a consistent position to hold.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Look, he barely touched on JFK. I figured I could throw it in here. No, that's exactly it. If you keep saying, nah, we got nothing. Okay, well, what about all of these files that you clearly have? Nah, you got nothing. And then the skeptics go, hey, look, the government's never released anything, so obviously there's no such thing as UFOs. No, you should be on our side. Like he just said, skeptics should be on the UFO believer side or even the UFO agnostic side and say, let's see everything and then let us decide. Is it real or is it fake? And ultimately, I think that's what's going to need to happen is somewhere down the line, someone's just going to have to say, here it is, believe it, don't believe it, figure it out for yourself. And the point is, yes, please, let us all figure it out for ourselves. All right, here's talking about Greenwald, the guy from Black Vault, and the info that Black Vault has got and the government's redacting of documents and reluctance to give information from the Freedom of Information Act. All that stuff I was talking about at the beginning. Here he goes. Let him talk about it.
The inconsistencies in the claims made by the Pentagon and the military. There's a great quote from him, which is they'll say one thing on Monday and they say something else on Friday.
Yep.
So, on the issue of the videos, there's some complexity to it, but basically after some of these videos were released, the Pentagon said, yeah, there's no more videos, just those 3 videos. And then he was like, well, really? And then a different branch then said, well, there's other videos, but we're not going to release them. So he also has established that there's other videos that they won't release for national security reasons. The final thing that's important about Greenwald is he noticed that they are justifying secrecy under a law enforcement provision rather than just national security. And that is very suspicious because if it's true, then we should know what the law enforcement investigations are, at least the members of Congress should. But if it's possible that they're also just abusing that, then we're just seeing, I held up, at one moment, the redactions because it's just so absurd that they're redacting how long they've been collecting reports, how many reports they have, and what UAPs could be, as though there's not already a lot of speculation about what UAPs could be. it's really as though they don't want to admit for some reason that they are considering the more freaky hypotheses.
Yes.
Because they don't want to give it legitimacy, but that's just not how it works. Like, people don't become less suspicious when there's censorship. They become more suspicious.
Absolutely.
So if you don't want conspiracy, theorizing,
Right.
then you should release more information.
Yeah, and again, he's 100% right, and he does held up and document during the congressional hearing, and it is one line at the top, and then the rest is all blacked out in big, bold blackout. A completely useless document that is literally just asking, how long have you been investigating? Not, hey, can we see the photos of the alien autopsy? No, just how long have you been investigating? And it shows that, again, still to this day, the government is not being forthright. No matter what they say, when they keep saying, oh, we're going to be 100% forthright, we're going to make sure that the American people get this information. Well, we're not. We're getting information, we're getting documents, but the documents that we're getting are completely blacked out and useless. This next part, almost done, don't worry. This next part is about recovered UAPs, and I really like this part. This is still Michael Schellenberger, talking about Immaculate Constellation Program, and on this one about recovered UFOs.
I haven't verified it, but I mean, it sounds completely reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, these reports of crash retrievals and reverse engineering are decades old. It's not new. I mean, there's a guy named Stringfeld who did a huge, number of investigations into it. When you really get into the crash stuff, you also get these really conflicting accounts. It makes it like a hall of mirrors. And you get them from people that are really credible, saying really different things. This is really dramatic on Roswell. There's a lot of interviews that have been done. So it's a tricky one. I very rarely find people, these witnesses, I don't think that very many of them, I should say, are deliberately trying to hoax anybody, which just makes the phenomenon more and more fascinating. Like, I mean, one of the things around the Roswell, the alleged Roswell crash is that was it one UFO or two UFOs and taken down by radar, but how could it possibly be taken down by primitive radar if it's an advanced crash? I mean, the whole thing is mysterious. I mean, the thing that everybody raises is, if you've got advanced craft, how are they possibly crashing so much? Other people say, well, that's, no, it makes sense. And, if we had ships going into other planets, they could crash. But yeah, it's just...
or it's a donation.
So, yeah, let me stop it right there. Look, it's not a donation. I hate that theory. I think that theory is dumb, that they're donating crashed UFOs and alien bodies. Bullshit. But let me pause right here to say that Bob Lazar said decades ago that at speed, these UFOs, the ones that he reverse engineered at Groom Lake, these UFOs at speed are smooth and can maneuver swiftly. But once they're in the atmosphere and they slow down, they seem to wobble, whether it's because of like gravitational pull or it's just how they were. He wasn't sure, but he did say that the wobble was very apparent the slower they got or the closer to the ground they got. So it is very conceivable that something can travel light years but then crash when they get here. It's just when people scoff at that, like, oh, they can fly from 10 light years away, but as soon as they get to Earth, they crash. That's dumb. It's a played out joke. Bob Lazar talked about it decades ago. It's being proven right that these UFOs are susceptible to the same things that anybody is susceptible to: gravitational pulls, to radar. The theory is that a radar, which was still pretty new at that time, is what brought down the UFOs. Now, some people think at the Roswell, some people think that it was the lightning storms. It could be anything. We don't know what brought down those UFOs yet. I'm sure one day we'll find out. But UFOs can crash. That's like saying the most advanced plane or car or whatever vehicle can never crash. They do. They do regularly. It's a played out joke that drives me absolutely crazy. But anyhow, so let me keep going on with this. Talks a little bit about Congress and staffers that have spoken to witnesses, apparently in SCIFs. Again, that's that sensitive compartmented information facility. So that was actually brought up in this congressional hearing. There was a lot of questions, again, that they couldn't answer, but they could answer behind closed doors, basically. And I think that that's going to be an answer that we hear more and more is, oh, cool, can you tell me more about it? No, I can't because you don't have the clearance. So let me jump ahead into that part.
Well, my understanding is that members of Congress and their staffers have spoken to witnesses. I don't know the exact status of it, but they don't have the authorization, or they don't have the permission to declassify. It's just obviously members of Congress are frustrated about that. It's the same problem with the documents and with the rest of it. They're just clearly not being given the authorization to declassify or make these things public yet.
Yeah, and that was the big frustration with the last one, and it's the big frustration with watching this one. Anytime we got a chance to, this is the perfect question, Lou Elizono's going to blow it out of the water. Oh, he can't release that information because the people don't have the clearance levels, or he can't talk about it in public. It was very, very frustrating, and it is very, very frustrating. Let me jump ahead just a little bit.
Huge emphasis, understandably, from the UAP movement, so there is a movement to try to persuade people that UAPs are real, and then I think another part of it to persuade people that they're NHI. I think that the right focus is to persuade the public and the government to have transparency and disclosure. And I think it helps to sort of, at least for people that are genuinely agnostic, to acknowledge that we're agnostic. I think that it's, I think it actually makes the case stronger when you point out that, look, if it's some peculiar form of mass psychosis or social contagion or Chinese balloons or whatever it is, we still need the disclosure and the transparency.
Yes.
I think you inspire a little bit more trust from the public on that issue, and I think it focuses on the government's secrecy rather than on the nature of UAPs. I think there's a separate sort of cultural movement phenomena that really is exploring what UAPs are. It involves taking really detailed cases and testimony, and that's all to the good, and of course that's great. But I do think at a kind of policy and political level, this sharp focus at going after the government secrecy, the cover-ups, the disinformation is absolutely essential. I think it's a chance to go from strength to strength. Here you've got one of the only bipartisan, nonpartisan movements I see. You saw every single member of Congress today on the committee,
both sides,
recognizing that there's something real there.
Yep.
This is the 13th time I've testified before Congress. It's actually heartwarming, like literally heartwarming, because it's so awkward when you testify normally and the Republicans and Democrats are just attacking each other in the nastiest ways. It's like shocking to see them being kumbaya and one love up there. Gives me a lot of hope for this movement. And it's actually part of what inspires me to want to work on it. It's nice to work on something that actually brings people together. It's also a reminder because there's so much hostility in other parts of the society, whether it's in the media or from the debunkers on social media or from friends and family that don't like it. It's nice to see that when you have a group of lawmakers that have actually dug into this, that they're clear there's something real here.
Yep.
And that this is not, it's clearly no longer a fringe thing. There was no uncomfortable giggling. There's no uncomfortable ridiculing. There was no character assassination. And so I kind of go strength to strength. This could be one of the most important social movements of the 21st century.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think it is very important. If this congressional hearing happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, well, not 5, 10 years ago, that there would be a lot of ridicule for anybody that came forward. Now, there still is. Again, these whistleblowers did not become celebrities. Grush got death threats. I think Elizondo got death threats. Look, these people are still not being accepted across the board as clearly as Michael Schellenberger says they are, but I get what he's saying, that it is nice that both sides can come together, Republicans and Democrats. We should put that crap aside. That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about the government talking to us about UFOs, about disclosure. And ultimately, I'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of this. I think it is really important to see that it can happen, that people can talk about this stuff and not blow up again about each other. Like there is a fine line that anybody can walk where both sides can listen to this episode and go, yeah, okay, good. That's information. That's all he's trying to get across is information. And I think it's really important. So then hybrids were brought up during this hearing. I want to make sure that you guys hear a lot or a little bit about the hybrids that were brought up. Let me turn this on.
There are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that? Yes or no?
So
the answer is no. But I'll jump ahead just a little bit more because I want to make sure we get back into it. But hybrids, really interesting topic to be brought up in a congressional hearing.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. I don't know. I mean, Jacques Vallée, who I think you and I talk about a lot, we both respect him. I mean, I've read a lot of his books, maybe most of them or all of them. He believes there are NHI. He also thinks that there is 3 levels of deceptions. One is from the government. The second is by the people that have the experiences, and he doesn't mean it as a criticism. He just thinks people don't completely often represent exactly what happened, often leaving out the freakier, high weirdness elements of it, high strangeness parts of it. And then he says the NHI themselves are being deceptive. It's a very interesting argument because, there's these really funny cases like, for example, there's this great case in France where a very trusted, respected farmer discovers a spaceship on his land, and then he goes up to it, and then there's supposedly an NHI there holding a tray full of soil samples and other vegetables, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't see you there, and I was just coming by with this." It seems absurd. Like, if you have some advanced civilization, like, why would they be caught off guard by a farmer with soil samples? It almost feels as though something's, and I think he would sort of say it is creating, I think he kind of describes it as a control mechanism that's sort of creating a particular perception, something that wants us to think that these are extraterrestrials and that they're investigating who we are and expressing concern about nuclear weapons in the environment. I always point out that you didn't need any non-human intelligence to point out that nuclear weapons were very scary or that we need to protect the environment. We didn't need anybody to tell us that. We knew that starting right away after World War II. So that's a very interesting hypothesis. I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, I know for a close colleague of mine who is uncomfortable with the subject, doesn't like it, that it's certainly, I'm in a stronger place with that person to talk about the need for disclosure and government openness and whatnot. It's also the case that a lot of people that are involved in this, the journalists, the people reporting it, they're involved in a lot of anomalous phenomena. There's a Skinwalker Ranch is a very freaky place, and there's a lot of freaky stories that comes out of it. It's used by the debunkers to sort of discredit, the broader sense of it. Part of me goes, I think we should be a little softer with each other, a little bit more tolerant of each other. There's so much mystery. I came back to my faith about 6 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, and it's I'm a Christian, and
all right, I'm gonna stop it right there. Nothing against him being a Christian or anything like that. That's not why I'm stopping it. But I think that ultimately what he had to say was important. That this is a topic that anybody should want to talk about. If the government is withholding something from us, even if it's about UFOs, and you don't give a shit about UFOs, it is important for the government to be forthright with its citizens, especially after they have said they are 100% going to be forthright with the citizens. And yet they still hold back all this stuff. And that there's a new branch, the Immaculate Constellation, that is being hidden from the public. Is this a shock to me? No, not at all. Is this a surprise to any of us? No, not at all. But everybody across the board should be upset about this. That they're not doing this because if they told us, civilization would collapse because of religion. He brought up religion, that's why I want to bring it up. Look, in the 1950s, if they said aliens are real, yeah, it would have collapsed. War of the Worlds is a great example of people not being ready for it. Nowadays, I've said it numerous times before, I'll say it again. Nowadays, this generation, this current generation, they know that UFOs are real. They know that there is alien life out there. It is scientifically impossible that we are the only life in the universe, in the galaxy even. It's not a surprise to anybody. It's not going to collapse civilization if they go, oh, yeah, aliens are real and they're visiting us. Will a lot of people get crazier and buy more guns? Well, yeah, probably. They're going to have a reason to. but it's not going to end society. The stock market isn't going to crash, in my opinion. Hopefully not. Ultimately, that's about it for the interview between Jesse Mitchells and Michael Schellenberger. I got to say, I really enjoyed the interview that he did. I sadly don't think a lot was said that regular listeners to this very podcast haven't already heard or know about. I don't think anything was really said in this hearing that wasn't really known about, except for Immaculate Constellation, which, again, wasn't brought up. I had it as a topic I wanted to bring up, but it was just brought up. It was just, the spotlight was put on it a lot more. Do I think it's one more step in disclosure? Of course. But let's keep going. So, like I said, there was that report about the Immaculate Constellation that I thought was really, really cool, really worth reading the whole thing. If you take anything away from this episode, it should be that. Immaculate Constellation is very clear that, yes, these UFOs these variety of UFOs are real, and that foreign adversaries, as well as our own government, are in kind of a cold war with each other over it, trying to get to these things, trying to recover these vehicles. Yeah, it's really bizarre. The other things that were talked about since the hearing, like, for example, those triangle UFOs that were talked about in the Immaculate Constellation being RVs. They said reproduction vehicles. It bums me out that that's the terminology they use because, again, if I just tell my friends at a bar, like, hey, did you see the UFO congressional hearing? They said that they have reproduction vehicles. They're going to go, okay, and that's going to be the end of it. If they had said, those triangle UFOs? Yeah, those are recovered UFOs, recovered alien vehicles. That's how they should have said it. Recovered alien vehicles. They are from outer space. Then people would be like, no shit, that's what they said? The government said that? And it would blow people's minds. But that's what is being said, that these reproduction vehicles, and conclude that U.S. vessels are aware of these reproduction vehicles, frequent use of these coordinates going into these military bases around sensitive areas. They know the exact time and place that these things are happening. There's video of these things happening. There's footage of these things happening that is out there. It is just not being passed along to us. It's really, it should be a headline. Stop the press is kind of a headline, but it's worded in such a way, reproduction vehicles, it buries the lead, if you will. Orbs. They were huge talking about orbs. It's crazy how much they talked about orbs. Now, let me be very clear that the orbs that they're talking about, again, are not ghost orbs. They're not dust. I'm going to be very clear with it. It's not dust. These are those silver orb circular UFOs. I think I got it at the beginning.
Involved orbs surrounding and forcing an F-22 out of its patrol area.
Let me replay that.
One involved orbs surrounding and forcing an F-22 out of its patrol area.
Yeah, it's real brief. It's Schellenberger reading from the Immaculate Constellation report about an F-22 being moved out of its patrol area by a silver UFO orb. Then there's talk with a little bit with Lou Elizondo about NHI, non-human intelligence, but not just him, about all three of them. Let me play this one for you. I think I already played it.
Elizondo, you state in your testimony that, quote, advanced technologies not by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe, end quote. If these technologies are not made by any government, who's making them? Private companies, or are you implying they are crafted by a non-human intelligence?
Well, ma'am, that's precisely why we're here. The problem is that, temporally speaking, over decades, not just the last 10 years, to put this in perspective,
are these private companies you're implying, or is this non-human intelligence?
Shut up and let him answer.
Okay.
When it comes to Blue Force Technologies, I would not be able to discuss
okay.
that.
Are you read into secret UAP crash retrieval programs?
We would have to have a conversation in a closed session, ma'am. I signed documentation 3 years ago that restricts my ability to discuss specifically crash retrievals. I submitted for my book through the DOPSR process, which took a year for it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse, okay, we already answered that question about retrieval programs. Do any U.S. contractors have the same?
I would prefer to address that in a closed session, ma'am.
Okay. In your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy and the logic. Okay, Mr. Schellenberger, I'm going to say it again to be very clear. Immaculate Constellation. What's its mission and how are they funded?
Its mission is to, as I stated, its mission is to it's an unacknowledged special access program. Its mission is to document UAPs.
Okay, and do you, for your story and your report, do you have more than one credible source?
I do.
Sourcing, okay.
I do.
And then why do you believe your sources to be credible? How do you judge the veracity of the documentation you've been provided about this program?
I checked the sources, and they are who they say they are. They are current or former government officials. Mm-hmm. I wanted to also add that I did not specify that they were Defense Department employees. I didn't specify the agency nor the gender.
Would they have included non-government employees, people that aren't employed by the government?
These are, I'm comfortable saying that these are government or previously government employees.
Any of them currently employed by a private contractor or private contractors?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. What's the key takeaway, just a few seconds, about the Immaculate Constellation document you provided us today?
I think that what the American people need to know is that the U.S. military and intelligence community are sitting on a huge amount of visual and other information, still photos, video photos, other sensor information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
high res,
high resolution.
How many visuals, graphics, videos, photos?
I mean, I've been told hundreds, maybe thousands. I mean, I also wanted to say, because there was some conversation around concern around the revealing of these materials, revealing the source collections, but some of these are shot from helicopters using normal videos of oceans. I just think that's absurd that somehow you're going to be revealing some secret U.S. technology by revealing that you've photographed orbs off the coast of Kuwait.
So that's the meat and potatoes video, in a nutshell. I didn't create it. Somebody else did it for me, but this is the exact same points that I started writing down all of the timestamps on from the congressional hearing, and then someone did all the work for me, and I think it's fantastic. In it, you hear that Lou Elizondo says that UFOs are real, and that the recovered vehicles or that these UFOs could be reverse engineered UFOs, or they could be aliens, and he doesn't know. And then you hear Schellenberger talk a bit about Immaculate Constellation and what it does. It is really impressive that the amount of information that they got out, and I do think, and I said this at the last congressional hearing as well, I do think I'm sorry I can't talk about that is just as telling as here is the answer, yes or no. I think it's very telling. There's a gentleman named I can't think of his name. There's a guy that came out right after the congressional hearing online that said that Lockheed Martin had successfully reverse engineered UFOs. One of them crashed while recovering it. Lockheed and the JSOC got into a firefight. That's a huge grain of salt thing. Huge grain of salt things. Apparently Sam Harris and Eric Weinstein were sent an email about UFOs that even they can't say, is it 100% real? They don't know. But the theory is that, yeah, there has been some firefights that have happened between government and government contractors or government and companies that when they're trying to recover UFOs. So again, huge grain of salt stuff that came out just after the congressional hearing. One of the other things that was brought up, I don't know enough about it, but one of the other things that was brought up was about that huge UFO that was talked about in the Immaculate Constellation, that this giant 200 to 400 meter UFO was using cloud coverage to hide by using OPIR, which stands for Overhead Persistent Infrared. Now, that's a program that uses satellites to detect and track ballistic missiles, to help warn of potential attacks. So once again, Overhead Persistent Infrared, it's a program that uses satellites to detect and track ballistic missiles to help warn of potential attacks. Some people are saying that it is impossible for someone on the ground to be using OPIR to track this UFO. Now, other people are saying, I don't know anything about it. I don't know enough about it. I'm not that smart. Other people are saying, no, you can do that because other countries, foreign countries currently have figured out a way to use Starlink to say, oh, there is something, there's a U.S. spy plane that they can't track with the satellite, with radar. There's a U.S. spy plane that they can't track with a radar, but by using Starlink, we can say, shoot a laser up to Starlink, and if something comes between the ground, crosses over the laser between the ground and the Starlink, they know that there is a vehicle there. They know that there is a plane that they can't track there. So there's a lot of infighting online about can they do this the way they said they do this? They're trying to basically prove is Immaculate Constellation true or false? And what it boils down to is that people are very divided, really divided on can they use the technology the way that they say they're using in Immaculate Constellation to track UFOs. It's interesting. Look, it's really interesting. Here's a great wrap up of the hearing that let's get to the bottom. Let's start wrapping this up, shall we? Testimonies from Dr. Galladay, a retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral, recounted an incident from January 2015. He received an urgent email highlighting multiple near mid-air collisions with unknown objects during a naval exercise. This email included a now declassified Go Fast video depicting a Navy FA-18 encounter with an unidentified object. Mysteriously, the email vanished from all recipients' inboxes the following day without explanation. Then, Lou Elizondo. He asserted that the U.S. government possessed advanced UAP technologies and is engaged in a secretive crash retrieval program aimed at reverse engineering alien craft. He also mentioned discussions within the Pentagon about recovered alien bodies that predates his tenure, i.e. Roswell. It's all about calls for transparency and calls for declassification. Ultimately, that's what it boiled down to. It was the same, not the same players, but the same type of whistleblowers with the same type of, we have this information already. This isn't information that you need to give us. We have this information already. We just need it declassified so we can release it to the people. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp said that they had received stuff that they cannot share with the public. And they're waiting for the day that they can share it with the public. And they've seen this footage. So the footage is already there. It just needs to be released to us. It needs to be declassified so it can release to us. There was talk during the congressional hearing about how these vehicles work, and that if they have the ability to reverse engineer it, then they have the ability to basically, it's like fusion power, basically. They have this clean energy. And if we have the clean energy, why isn't it out there? If we've been reverse engineering it since the 50s, supposedly, and at least since the 70s, like Bob Lazar saw, and we have the ability to make this material that could give us clean energy and an instant, basically, air travel, if you will. Why isn't it out there? Well, remember, if the government has this clean energy, UFOs capable of the things that we see, there is zero benefit to using them as a new unlimited clean energy. Just like there's no money in a cure for diseases, there is no money in clean, free energy. You might be asking, well, who's going to stop us from having clean, free energy? Well, just think about the information that happens about clean energy now. Hell, even climate change now. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Climate change is real. We have the ability to clean up the environment, the earth, with clean energy, but big oil doesn't want that. They don't want to tell you we're running out of oil, even though it's been proven that we are. They want every penny that they can get. This shouldn't be a Republican or Democrat thing. This should be a fact. The earth is round. Sorry, flat earthers, if you're listening to this for the first time, you're wrong. We did go to the moon. There's scientific evidence that backs that up. And there's also scientific evidence that climate change is real and that big oil doesn't want us to run on clean energy. They're not going to make the money off of it. If this UFO, if we could run the entire energy grid, power grid in America off of unobtainium or whatever the hell it's called, that element 151 that Bob Lazar talks about, who's going to get the money from it? Think about all of the federal offices that are going to lose money from it. So, no matter what you do, if you're talking about a government and you're talking about anything, it's going to come down to who's going to benefit from it. And there is no benefit for the government to give away this clean energy. So, of course, they're going to keep that classified. The U.S. is also accused of having UAP crash retrieval programs. Look, it was very obvious. You heard it themselves that there are efforts to recover any objects that crash. Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no? Lou Elizondo said yes. Clearly, yes. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes or no? Yes. It's, again, were you read into the secret UAP crash retrieval programs? We'd have to talk about it behind closed doors. It was clear, crystal clear. These are not speculations. These are facts. This Immaculate Constellation isn't speculating. It has the footage. Ultimately, again, over and over and over and over again. I'm even going to skip paranormal news. This episode's gone long enough. You've gotten the bulk of this hearing, so you don't have to, you didn't have to watch it yourself, or please do if you want to. Please watch it yourself. And watch that Immaculate Constellation UAP program revealed featuring Michael Schellenberger by Jesse Mitchells. Watch it yourself. I wanted to give you the highlights. Overall, I always think these hearings are good. It legitimizes UFOs. It gets people talking about them. But more importantly, these hearings shockingly bring together both sides of the government, like Schellenberg was talking about, and the country onto one topic. It brings the entire country together on one topic. Sure, both sides of people that believe, both sides of people that don't believe, and both sides of people that just don't care. But for one brief moment, we aren't fighting. And I'm going to call that a win, too. We can push aside politics. We can push aside Democrats and Republicans, all of that crap. We can also push aside Christians and atheists. Push all that crap aside and talk about one topic. Talk about UFOs. The United States has always rallied over a common enemy. Let me pause right here and say I don't think aliens or UFOs are an enemy, but if being concerned about UFOs and aliens pauses the fighting around the world on other topics, then sure, let's all focus on UFOs for the week that it came out. And then next week, it'll be right back to the same old everybody hates everybody kind of a thing. It's like, you can say whatever you want about your brothers or your sisters, but if someone not in the family says some crap about your brothers and your sisters, suddenly your family bands together tightly to smack down that talk. That's the kind of thing that seems to happen every time one of these things comes up. Everybody bands around. No, we're talking about UFOs. I don't care about that crap, and I don't care about who's the president. I don't care about any of that shit. We're talking about UFOs. I think that the next one of these, if there is a next one of these, and I think there will be, the next one of these will legitimize these people more and more. The criticisms and the disinformation about these people will be less and less. It'll still happen. I'm not, pie-eyed. I'm not dumb. I know it'll still happen, but I think it'll be less and less. And I think more and more whistleblowers will have the nerve to come forward. And I think that's the important part, that maybe somebody with more information that watched this and went, these guys aren't being thrown out of the country immediately or thrown in jail immediately. Maybe I can tell my story. And maybe I won't be a whistleblower, but maybe I'll talk to Michael Schellenberger or Kurt Sandvig or whomever to get my story out there. Look, do I think that like this calmness that I was talking about a minute ago will last? No. It took like a whole 2 hours before both sides were at odds again in the news and on social media. But again, I'm not talking about politics. I'm not going anywhere near that with like a 10-foot alien anal probe. But what I am talking about is legitimizing people coming forward to talk about stuff. Legitimizing the government having to get this information out to the American public. It's never, ever going to be all the information. But again, if it's just a little bit of the information, it's more than what we used to get. More than what we got for decades. So I'm going to call it a win. I have always said that disclosure is not going to be one big thing. Disclosure is going to be a bunch of little things until it is beyond a shadow of a doubt that UFOs are real. I know and you know that they are. The government came out and said it the last time these hearings happened. But when my neighbor across the street says, hey, you know what? UFOs are real. They've said it. That's when I know that everybody's on the same page about this. And that's where we need to be. I think everybody needs to get on the same page. And I think it is going to happen. I really do. I think it's going to happen in my lifetime. You know, knock on wood. I'll say it'll happen within the next 10, 15 years. I don't think that a president is going to be the person that gives that information. I don't think there ever will be a president that will be the disclosure president. Everybody says it every time. Obama's going to be the disclosure president. No, didn't happen. George Bush is going to be the disclosure president. He was part of the CIA. He knew all about it. No, it didn't happen. Trump, he's not part of the government. He's going to be the disclosure president. Didn't happen. Biden's going to be the disclosure president. He wants to buck the system. Didn't happen. This time Trump's going to be the disclosure president. Not gonna happen. It's just not going to come from a president. I think it will come from these kinds of congressional hearings when both sides of the government, just like Schellenberger said, not me, Schellenberger said, when both sides of the government come together to work on one topic, there is a chance that information will cause disclosure. I think it's going to be more probably like a Snowden type thing or a leak of like a fappening of UFOs, a UF fappenings, that kind of a thing where out of nowhere one day we're going to wake up and all of this information was leaked by somebody who hacked somebody who got the right thing, and God willing, that's how it comes out, because that'd be the awesome way for it to come out. But I think it is going to come out. I hope you guys like this one. It was a real in-depth one. I know it. It got a little down in the weeds, but I think that's very important. Once again, I'm your host, Kurt Sandvig. This has been another edition of Paranormal Almanac. Marshall,